It started with something simple, a search for a pen. That's all it was. I opened the drawer in our bedroom, the one Emily always kept neatly organized. But tucked under a pile of old receipts and notebooks, I found a small leather-bound journal. I hesitated for a second. It wasn't locked, but it felt private, sacred even. For 12 years of marriage, I'd respected her space. But lately something had changed. The late-night texts, the secretive smiles, the sudden guilt that flickered in her eyes when I walked into a room. I told myself I wouldn't read it. I really did. But curiosity has a cruel way of becoming suspicion, and suspicion is a fire that burns until you feed it truth. I sat down, opened the first page, and saw her handwriting. Delicate, familiar, yet distant. The entries started innocently enough. Complaints about work, stress, exhaustion, the kids. But a few pages in, the tone shifted. The words grew softer, more personal. She wrote about someone named Mark. At first I assumed he was a coworker. But then came a sentence that hollowed me out completely. I wish I could stop thinking about how he made me feel last night. I read it again. Then again. My hands began to shake. Every paragraph after that was another knife. The secret lunches, the excuses about working late, the guilt she hated to admit but couldn't resist. I couldn't breathe. Every word stripped away the woman I thought I knew, leaving behind a stranger who shared my home and my bed. When I closed the diary, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to understand how love could rot so quietly from the inside. That night, I watched her sleep beside me, peaceful, unaware that I now knew everything. She looked so familiar, and yet I couldn't recognize her anymore. The next morning, I took the diary to my lawyer. I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. Something clean, something final. The papers were drawn up in silence. When she came home that evening, I handed her the envelope. She frowned, thinking it was mail. But when she opened it, her expression crumbled. "James, what is this?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "It's the truth written in your own words." Emily didn't speak for a full minute. Her hands trembled as she held the papers, her lips parting just slightly as if she wanted to explain but couldn't find the words. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red, wet, desperate. "James, please, it's not what you think," she whispered. That was the moment I realized how practiced lies sound when they're backed by fear, not guilt. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said, "Then tell me who Mark is." Her silence was answer enough. She sat down at the dining table, pressing her palms against her face. The same table where we celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, where our kids learned their first words. I watched her shoulders shake, and for a brief second I wanted to comfort her. But then I remembered the pages, the details of every meeting, every kiss, every moment she swore she never had time for with me. When she finally spoke, her voice was broken. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I felt invisible, James. I didn't plan it." Invisible. That word hit me harder than the betrayal itself. I had spent years working overtime, saving for family trips, building a life she said she wanted. I thought I was keeping us strong. But all the while, she had been writing a secret life in her diary. One that didn't include me. "I don't hate you," I told her. "But I can't live with a version of you that hides behind lies." She reached across the table, trying to hold my hand. I pulled away. Her wedding ring gleamed in the low kitchen light, a symbol that had lost its meaning. The next few days were a blur. She tried to talk to me, tried to apologize, but I'd already moved into the guest room. The kids noticed, of course. Our son Evan asked me why Mommy was crying so much. Our daughter Lily stopped eating dinner with us altogether. I wanted to shield them to make it less painful. But the truth has a way of seeping into every corner, no matter how hard you try to contain it. When I finally told them we were separating, Emily broke down completely. She begged me not to turn them against her. I didn't have to. Kids see more than we think. They saw the nights she came home late. They heard the arguments muffled behind closed doors. They felt the distance before I ever put it into words. By the end of that week, she moved into her sister's place. The house felt quieter, emptier, but strangely lighter too. I'd lost my wife, but in some cruel way, I felt like I had finally found the truth. It's been 8 months since that day. The papers were signed, the house divided, the silence sealed. I thought time would dull the pain, that routine would stitch me back together. But betrayal leaves behind a different kind of wound, one that doesn't bleed but never fully heals either. Emily still calls sometimes. She says she wants to talk to the kids to make things normal again. But nothing about this is normal. Evan refuses to speak to her, too angry to even look at her picture. Lily listens in silence, saying little, but I can see it in her eyes, that quiet confusion that comes when the world stops making sense. They both ask the same question in different ways. Why would she do that to us? Not to me. To us. Because her affair didn't just destroy a marriage, it cracked the foundation of our family. Last week, she came by to drop off some of Lily's clothes. I hadn't seen her since the court hearing. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically but in presence. The confidence, the light she used to carry, gone. She stood at the door holding a box, her eyes darting between me and the hallway behind me, like she was searching for traces of the life she'd lost. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I nodded, but only because I wanted closure. She sat on the same couch where she used to fall asleep watching movies with me. "I know you hate me," she began, "but I just want you to know. I never meant to hurt you. I was lost. I thought I needed excitement, something different. But I ruined everything." Her voice cracked on the last word. For the first time I saw regret instead of denial. Real raw regret. But it came too late. "I don't hate you," I said quietly. "I just don't trust you anymore. And without trust, there's nothing left to rebuild." She cried for a while, whispering apologies I no longer had the energy to absorb. When she finally left, I closed the door and stood there for a long time, listening to the silence she left behind. It didn't hurt like it used to, just felt final. Now I write in my own journal, not to hide secrets but to remind myself of truths. That love without honesty is just decoration. That loyalty once broken can't be patched, only remembered. Sometimes I catch Lily reading at the table where her mother once confessed. Evan plays in the yard where we used to barbecue on weekends. Life goes on, reshaped by pain, strengthened by what we learn. And though my marriage ended with a diary, my peace began with it too.